The New Orleans Saints were supposed to stay buried, and that is exactly why this story feels dangerous. Everybody looked at the record and moved on. They saw a team at the bottom of the NFC South and thought the same old problems were still running the building, but New Orleans did something people missed. They changed the quarterback field, rebuilt the help around him, added speed, added protection, and walked into this offseason like a team that knew the rest of the division was not far away at all. That is where Tyler Shuck changes the whole mood. He did not walk in with loud talk or fake hype. He walked in when the season already looked broken, and suddenly the offense had a pulse again. Then the Saints gave him real help. Chris Olave is still the star receiver nobody wants to leave alone. Travis Etienne Jr. gives the backfield a new punch. David Edwards gives the line the kind of protection this offense has needed for years. And Jordan Tyson brings fresh fire into a receiver room that no longer feels easy to cover. But the twist is, this is not only about offense. Brandon Staley has a defense that quietly started looking meaner, faster, and harder to deal with. The NFC South spent last season packed together, and nobody truly ran away with it. That matters because while everyone was talking about Carolina, Tampa Bay, and Atlanta, the Saints were building something under the noise. And the first real proof starts with the one position that can flip the whole franchise: Tyler Shuck. Tyler Shuck did not save the New Orleans Saints with noise, he changed them with control. That is the part people missed. When he took over, the season already felt heavy. The offense looked stuck, and every mistake felt louder than the last one. Then something shifted. The ball came out with more purpose. The huddle looked calmer. The sideline felt alive again for a rookie quarterback walking into that kind of pressure that matters more than any empty hype. The numbers were not perfect, and that is what makes the story more real. Tyler Shuck played like a young quarterback learning fast, not like a finished star pretending he had everything solved. He ended the season with 2,384 passing yards, 10 passing touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 186 rushing yards, and 3 rushing touchdowns. Those numbers tell part of it, but the real sign was the way the Saints stopped looking lost. Kellen Moore finally had someone he could build around, not just survive with. Now the pressure changes. Last year, Tyler Shuck was trying to prove he belonged. This year, he has to prove the late spark was not a lucky stretch. That is why every move around him matters. David Edwards was not added for headlines. Travis Etienne Jr. was not brought in by accident. Chris Olave is still waiting to punish defenses that cheat too far inside. The Saints are not asking Shuck to carry a broken team anymore. They are building the room around him, and the first real piece of that plan starts up front. The biggest move for the New Orleans Saints might not be the loudest one. It might be David Edwards. That sounds strange at first, because guards do not sell headlines like quarterbacks, receivers, or running backs. But for Tyler Shuck, this is the kind of signing that can change every snap. A young quarterback does not need chaos in his face. He needs a clean pocket, a steady wall, and 1 extra second to see the throw before the whole play breaks apart. That is why David Edwards matters so much. He came from a winning setup in Buffalo where protecting Josh Allen was part of the job every single week. Now he walks into New Orleans with one clear purpose: make life easier for Tyler Shuck and make the run game feel dangerous again. Travis Etienne Jr. is not the same back if defenders are meeting him before the line. Chris Olave is not the same weapon if the quarterback has to rush every read. This signing connects everything, and that is the part the NFC South should be watching. The Saints did not add David Edwards just to say the offensive line got better. They added him because Kellen Moore needs control up front before his offense can open up. When the inside is stronger, the run game breathes, the play action hits harder, and Tyler Shuck stops playing like he is racing the clock. The Saints already found their spark at quarterback. Now they are building the protection around him. And the next piece of the story is the receiver who can punish every defense that gives him space. Chris Olave is the kind of receiver who changes the way a defense breathes before the ball is even snapped. Corners cannot relax against him. Safeties cannot cheat too far away from him. Linebackers cannot sit too long in the middle when he starts bending routes into open grass. That is why his season meant more than catches and touchdowns. He reminded the NFC South that New Orleans still has a true #1 target. The dangerous part now is the timing. Chris Olave is no longer stuck in an offense searching for answers every week. Tyler Shuck gave him a quarterback who can grow with him, and Kellen Moore gives this passing game a cleaner plan. That matters because great receivers do not only need targets, they need rhythm. They need trust. They need a quarterback willing to throw before the window looks wide open. When that trust starts building, the defense begins guessing, and that is when Olave becomes a problem. But here's what makes this story bigger than one star receiver. The Saints are not asking Chris Olave to drag the whole passing game by himself anymore. The line is stronger, the backfield has more punch, the quarterback has a full offseason to settle in, and the receiver room is about to get another piece with real pressure attached to his name. If defenses thought covering Olave was already hard, the next addition might make that job feel impossible. Jordan Tyson walks into New Orleans with pressure already waiting for him. That is what happens when a team takes you near the top of the draft and pairs you with a receiver like Chris Olave. But this is not a panic pick. This feels like the Saints knew exactly what they were missing. They needed another target who could make defenses pay for leaning too hard toward their number one guy. Now every coverage call gets harder. The scary part is how different this offense starts to feel when Jordan Tyson is added to the picture. Tyler Shuck no longer has to stare down one main answer when the play gets tight. Chris Olave can work with less traffic around him. Oscar Delp gives the middle of the field another option. Bryce Lance brings speed that can stretch a defense thin. Barian Brown adds that sudden spark where one touch can flip field position. These rookie pieces do not need to become stars overnight. They just need to make the Saints harder to predict. That is the real change. New Orleans is not building an offense where one player has to carry every third down, every deep shot, and every late drive. They are giving Kellen Moore more buttons to press, and that is when an offense becomes uncomfortable to defend. If Jordan Tyson grows fast, the Saints can attack outside, inside, short, deep, and on the ground without looking desperate. But while the offense is getting the attention, the quiet side of this rebuild might be even more important, because Brandon Staley has a defense that can turn close games into wins. Brandon Staley is the part of this Saints story that most people still are not treating seriously. Everyone wants to talk about the quarterback jump, the new weapons, and the rebuilt offense. That makes sense. But New Orleans was not only trying to win prettier games, they were trying to stop losing the ugly ones. That is where the defense comes in, because close games are not flipped by hype. They are flipped by stops. The Saints' defense started to look different because the pressure and coverage began working together. Chase Young gave them edge heat. Carl Granderson kept the front active. Brian Bresee gave them force inside. Kool-Aid McKinstry gave the secondary a corner who could handle real work without looking scared of the moment. Then New Orleans added more help with Tyree Wilson, Kristen Miller, Lorenzo Styles Jr., and TJ Hall. That is not a defense standing still. That is a defense adding layers. And that matters because the NFC South is not a division where one team is miles ahead. Most of these games come down to one late drive, one third down, one red zone stop, one quarterback forced into a bad throw. If Brandon Staley turns this group from quiet good into truly dangerous, the Saints do not need every game to become a shootout. They can win with pressure, patience, and field position. And that is why the whole division picture starts to look different. Because the door was never locked. It was sitting wide open. The NFC South did not run away from the New Orleans Saints. That is the truth hiding inside the standings. Carolina finished first, but not with some scary gap that made the rest of the division feel hopeless. Tampa Bay was right there, Atlanta was right there. New Orleans sat behind them, but the division itself never looked untouchable. The Saints were not chasing a giant. They were chasing a room full of teams still trying to separate. That is why this offseason feels different. Bryce Young and the Panthers earned their crown, but they still have to prove they can hold it. Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers are still dangerous, but the road back is not simple. Atlanta brought in Kevin Stefanski, and a new coach always brings a new test. None of that means those teams are weak. It means the margin is thin. One better drive, one cleaner month, one young quarterback jump, and the whole South can flip. This is where the Saints become interesting. They are not walking into 2026 like a team begging for a miracle. They are walking in with Tyler Shuck growing, Chris Olave still dangerous, David Edwards changing the line, Travis Etienne Jr. adding balance, and Brandon Staley giving the defense real bite. The door was left open. New Orleans saw it. And now the final question is simple. Are the Saints ready to stop looking like a sleeper and start looking like the problem? The New Orleans Saints are no longer sitting in the background waiting for respect. They have enough pieces now to make the entire NFC South uncomfortable. This is not about blind hype. This is about fit. Tyler Shuck has a cleaner setup. Chris Olave has more help around him. Travis Etienne Jr. gives the offense a harder edge. David Edwards gives the line real weight. The Saints finally look like a team with answers instead of excuses. That is why 2026 feels like a turning point. Kellen Moore gets a full offseason to shape the offense around his young quarterback. Brandon Staley gets another year to sharpen a defense that already started showing teeth. Jordan Tyson gives the passing game a fresh threat. Tyree Wilson gets a new chance to become a problem off the edge. Kool-Aid McKinstry gives the secondary confidence. This roster is not perfect, but it is no longer easy to dismiss. So here's the real question for the South. What happens if Tyler Shuck takes the jump? What happens if Chris Olaway stays healthy and keeps winning his matchups? What happens if David Edwards fixes the pocket and Travis Etienne Jr. makes defenses respect the run again? That is when the New Orleans Saints stop being the team people forgot and start becoming the team nobody wants to catch late in the season. The division laughed too early. New Orleans might be ready to answer on the field,